Hi, it's your girl Tommy, and by the title you've already guessed it, I'm gonna be giving you my 2 cents on the long anticipated release Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McKinston. But for the sake of clarity, I'm gonna be referring to the movie as My Dear Fucking Prince, and I'll be referring to the books as Red, White and Royal Blue. And before we go any further, if you haven't read the books and you haven't watched the movie, keep on watching. Keep on watching, because you know what? You saw the title, you still clicked on the video. It means that you want to be spoiled. It means that somewhere deep down you want to get spoiled and you love it. And I love that for you. So you've been warned, there are spoilers everywhere.
No way.
It's essentially a queer romance story between the son of the President of America, Alex Claremont Diaz, and the Prince of England, Henry, whose last name I shall not pronounce. And yes, it is messy. It is messy and we love it. It is essentially the classic enemies to lovers or enemies to friends to lovers kind of story, except that they have a long time subscription to Data Airways and they don't give a fuck about the planet, because they keep jumping and flying from country to country through the Pacific, the Atlantic, just to get that freak on, you know. And you know what? I ain't mad. Are you mad? Because I am mad. In this video, I'm going to be talking specifically about why people seem to love the movie so much, and I dare say why the movie is so much better than the book. How did My Dear Fucking Prince surpass Red, White and Royal Blue? Number 1, understanding the source material. A true understanding of the characters that you are trying to portray is the number 1 key to making a successful adaptation. But what does that mean? How can you make Film Alex and Film Henry feel like they jump straight out of the books? The key is to have a deep understanding of the identity and the personality of the characters that you are trying to portray. There are 3 ways that people self-identify. The first one is, who am I? What are my goals?
Be a writer.
What are my values? It's about what comes from within. Number 2, what makes me special compared to the next guy? Individuality. What does the outside reflect about the inside? Number 3, what conjoins them? What are their shared values? Why does Alex and Henry go so well together? What are their common struggles? Is it comfort? Is it love? Is it something else? In a nutshell, you need to have a deep comprehension of their flaws,
But I was a prick to everyone in those days.
their strength, their mannerism. Are they more refined and polished, like Henry, or wild and childish, like Alex? Because if you wrongly identify your character, you leave your audience puzzled and unable to link the character they fell in love with your Shane version on the screen. My Dear Fucking Prince perfectly understood that. Alex loves his family. His sassiness, his carefree behavior, his impulsive nature was perfectly opposed with Henry's careful, intellectual and discreet personality. From the way Henry moves to the way he looks like he's always about to cry serves as a constant reminder that, unlike Alex, Henry didn't grow up in a loving and nurturing environment. Thus, he tends to shrink himself and to play the part. Their 2 distinctive personality is a crystallization of the crown versus the Statue of Liberty. Here is an example of how the movie got it right. Something that really stuck out to me in the books is that Alex doesn't listen. He is actually very American in that sense. He judges and often gauges the outside world from his own point of view. He never actually really understood the severity and the repercussion of their relationship. He carelessly compares being the prince of the English monarchy to being the son of the President of America. When reading the book, you couldn't help but feel a little bit frustrated by Alex sometimes. This side of Alex is never actually mentioned in the book, as the story is from Alex's perspective. But the writers read the books, and they definitely were frustrated by Alex. And when Henry says,
Sometimes I don't think you know me at all.
that very short line added because it was never in the book, actually demonstrates that the writers had a deep understanding of the source material. So now you have pinpointed the identity of your characters. But nobody said that you had to make everything identical. Because what's the fun in that? You can switch things up and you can change some things around, as long as you do everything keeping in mind integrity. Number 2, building integrity. One of the main downfalls of the books is that, well, it's long. It's very long. Very, very long. It's not a very complicated story, and the world building is non-existent. It's a contemporary love story which makes references to Barack Obama, Taylor Swift, and Macron. I mean, you can't get more basic than that. So, why does it have to be 400 pages? The issue is that, like many writers, Casey McKinsey loves to hear herself talk. Or in this case, write. She's clearly turned on by how many references to classical literature she can pack in this one book. Jane Austen, Plato, etc. The movie completely changed that. They were straight to the point, they cut out repetitive scenes, and were still able to translate the entire plot truthfully in less than 2 hours, making pacing a lot better, still respecting the fun, rom-commy, unserious, just fun feel of the books. Let's see how the movie succeeded in removing and adding new characters, but still respecting integrity. Removing characters. The movie completely erased Jane, Alex's sister, but instead fused her with Nora, their childhood best friend. That was a very smart decision, because when you look at Nora and you look at Jane's personality board, they are actually quite identical. They are both fun, intelligent, and they both mainly serve as a voice of reasoning and emotional support for Alex. And because these two women lack individuality and personal goal, we can actually conjoin them without feeling that we are missing something. Less people running around and the story moves faster. Adding new characters. What about adding new characters? Another change from the book was the subplot about the election and the main villain, Rafael Luna. In the book, we quickly understand that Luna was a close friend of Alex's family and that he betrayed them to run as vice president for the opposing candidate, Richard. But at the end of the books, it turns out that he didn't actually betray them at all, but he was a double agent and that the real villain was actually the opposing candidate all along. So that plot is terrible. There's so many things wrong with this choice. It's really giving,
I just want to create a cute love story, but I want people to take my book seriously, so I'm gonna add a villain.
Even if he serves no purpose at all.
and that's the problem. The villain is on the side, is external from the main plot. Firstly, we only meet Luna by the end of the book. Until then, it's just mentioned. Luna betrayed us, Luna betrayed us. But who is Luna? Although we understand that they were close to him, we never actually saw him being close to the family. So the readers have no emotional investment in his betrayal. The election subplot only ties into the main plot by the very end of the book. Until then, every time Luna and the election comes around is just a nuisance that prevents the reader from concentrating on the main story arc, which is Alex and Henry's shenanigans. In the movie, this is completely erased, and instead, they introduce the character of Miguel Ramos. He is a reporter with whom Alex had a little situationship, and from the very moment we see Miguel, we understand that he's going to play an important role in Alex's story. His predatory nature is quickly exposed in their very first scene. It instantly seems very opportunistic. He's physically attracted to Alex, but we also understand that his attraction doesn't compare to his greed and his ambition to gain a storyline, and we immediately get that Miguel is a threat. He comes back time and time again throughout the movie, which puts him in the plot, not just at the end of the story, but from the jump. So when he betrays Alex at the end of the movie, the audience all share a mutual resentment and disgust for Miguel. The subject of betrayal conveyed in the book is still very much present. But in the movie, it's just, well, better. At the same time, the writer did not make the mistake of giving Miguel too much space, because this is not a villain-based story. That's why we do not get that scene at the end where he gets arrested for his crime. Because at the end of the day, Miguel doesn't matter. His actions are only a way to move the story forward. Miguel leaks Alex's Texas strategy. Alex gets to go on the campaign trail. Miguel leaks Henry and Alex's romance. Our heroes are forced to stand in their truth and finally get the happy ending that they deserve. Solving the flaws of the book is something that the show does very well. The book has a tendency of bringing external character with no emotional baggage into major events. And Henry's mother is the prime example. She basically showed up at the end of the book to save the day, removing the action from the hands of Henry and Alex. After everything they've been through, it was their time to shine and to stand up for themselves and to take back their power. But no, we get this random woman who we have never met, and she's the one who is doing all the talking. This was a huge miss in the book, especially for Henry, whose story is centered around his lack of agency. The book fell short because there is no moment where he truly overcomes this obstacle. He never really takes any risk or a bold step against the institution. Instead, the secret was leaked, forcing them to come out, and then his madre came out of nowhere to rescue him by threatening the queen. Side note, shout out to the show for changing the queen into a king. I believe this was done out of respect for late Queen Elizabeth. In the movie adaptation, his mother doesn't show up. Henry fights alone for his love and his decision in front of the king. He finally shows some agency, and even when given the opportunity to bury the story, he refuses. In the movie, the heroes are at the center of their story, which is ultimately better, because when Henry tells the king to fuck off, we all feel pride and we cheer him on, because we are happy to see the growth after witnessing is the stress. The audience will always be more emotionally invested in growth than some random lady just showing up. So we've seen how to truthfully portray your characters, how to build with integrity. Now let's go one step further. How do you make a movie better than the source material? Number 3, understanding your medium and exploiting it to the fullest. When you ask yourself, what are the elements that make the book special? The first thing that comes to mind is Henry and Alex's communication. Their letter, their emails, their text messages were a huge part of the book. About 100 pages out of the 400 pages of the book was them saying I love you to each other in 1,000 different ways. Through their countless exchanges, the reader understands that they spend a lot of time communicating. Even if they are not physically next to each other, their exchanges consume their day. That is essentially what made the charm of the book. It's an international love story. But how do you portray that on screen? You can always show the text message on screen, but you can only do that for so long before it becomes boring. So you take advantage of your medium. Cinema is a medium that has many qualities and benefits that books don't have. So you capitalize on that through the art of visual storytelling. The idea is pretty simple. What you're lacking in text, you replace it by visual. In the movie, they actually showed Henry being physically next to Alex, saying out loud his email and his text messages. The scene that illustrates visual narration the best is the turkey scene. In the book, we learn that it's the first time that they actually talk to each other on the phone. It's a pivotal step in their relationship. Texting creates distance, protection. However risque the text might be, you get to put it down. And when things get a little bit too hot, to rewrite it, to reread it, to proofread it 100 times before pressing send. But when you're on the phone with somebody, it's live. The flow must be just right. It's more intimate. We all have those experiences where you're on the phone with your crush till late at night. I mean, I don't, but whatever. It's not about me. It's always a very intimate moment. It's when you go from texting to actually speaking to each other. The movie could have easily recreated the scene from the books with a split image of Alex on one side of the phone and Henry on the other side. But the feeling wouldn't quite be the same, right? The intimacy would be less intense and the stakes Well, less high. But what did they do instead? Visual narration. Henry is in the room, on the bed, with Alex. Obviously, we understand that he is not actually there physically, but instead, it is a visual representation of their feeling, like they are right next to each other. Same scene, less word, same feeling from the books. The medium is different, but the feeling is the same. And the viewers do not feel cheated out of the beautiful scene that they read. It feels exactly like it felt when you first read the scene. Intimate, intense. And it all boils down to honesty. When you're writing a movie, you need to be honest. I am a movie, not a book. You don't shy away from it. You don't run away from your medium. You embrace it. You can't translate 400 pages of text in 1 hour and 26 seconds. It's impossible. And if you tried, you would fail miserably. The main highlight of My Dear Fucking Prince can be summarized in one word: Henry. For the most part, the book closely follows Alex on his day-to-day life. The only info we have on Henry is always through Alex. Henry's text with Alex, Henry's conversation with Alex, what Alex thinks of Henry, what Alex thinks Henry is thinking, what Alex thinks Henry is feeling. The book doesn't really explore Henry as a full-fledged individual character. The movie changes that to some extent. We do not have the impression to solely see Alex's perspective, but we also see Henry's perspective. We get to see the emotion on his face. We see when he looks at Alex when he thinks that nobody is looking. We see how he tries to stay away from him, how he battles his feeling for a very long time even before they both decide to taste the baguette. In the movie, the story is equally Henry's as it is Alex's. And that's just better, because Henry is actually a much richer character than Alex. His struggles are more complicated, his stakes are higher, and he's just more broody as a character. Whereas Alex is a little bit more slutty, things are a little bit more easy for him. Having Henry's perspective enriches the storyline, and by extension, the movie. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we get a scene that wasn't in the book, even though that's also the case. But rather, the medium, so cinema, allows us to see things that we weren't privy to and to understand characters better. Take this scene for example, and I would dare say is the best scene of the entire movie. Alex, in a burst of love, decides to pour his heart to Henry and starts saying stupid shit like walking together, holding hands in the street. In the book, we only see Alex's perspective. His confusion when he sees Henry freeze and leave without a word and ghosted him. But in the movie, we have this beautiful scene where we can visually see all the emotion running through Henry's face. We see how he went from happy and carefree to shocked, confused, overwhelmed, and said, fuck it, I'm out of here. Anyways, you get the point. The movie is just amazing. I rated it a 5-star compared to the book, which I only rated a 3-star. But don't get it confused. It's not a visually groundbreaking movie. This is not a Stephen Nolan project. But just by understanding these 3 facts, this small budget movie on wannabe Netflix was able to surpass big budgeted movie by successfully readapting on the screen the exact feeling that you get when reading the source material. Because adapting a book to the screen doesn't have to become a summarized version of the source material or a depleted version. If you understand what makes the book special in the first place and why people fell in love with it, you take that and then you build on top of that with visual storytelling and integrity, and that's how you make a movie better than the book. And everybody is happy. Thank you guys for subscribing. If you learned something from this video, don't forget to like and comment. It does help the channel grow and it tells me that you like this kind of content, so that I keep coming back with more and more and forevermore. Tell me which book you think was best adapted on screen, and did they follow our 3 main points? On that note, I'll see you next time. I need to go and watch My Dear Fucking Prince for the 100th time this month. Au revoir!